It was a gift for my... Hi everyone, welcome to Talk Knitty To Me. I'm Alexa of This Alexa Knits, and this is a knitting podcast. If you are new here, welcome. Glad to have you. If you are a subscriber returning for another episode, welcome back. Let me start by addressing this whole situation. I'm sure I sound awful. I have been sick for the past week or so, and every time I get sick, it parks itself in my sinuses and doesn't want to leave. So I'm sorry if I sound super nasally, if it makes it hard to watch this podcast, I'm sorry, but it has just been so long since I filmed anything and talked about any of my knitting that I couldn't hold off any longer. Things have been just absolutely crazy, and it's been, actually I think it's been months. Like, I don't think I filmed anything since July. I think that's right. I think the last podcast episode was before I left on my summer trip, so we have a lot to catch up on. Hopefully you're in it for the long haul because I have a lot to tell you about. So I'm very excited. I just want to dive right in. First things first, I guess I'll start with finished objects because I have some stuff to catch you up on. So number one finished object, for some reason I could only find one of them, but I have this pair of socks, which was one of my summer projects. I'll talk about this one first, and then I'll talk about the other finished object from the summer. But yeah, I finished this pair of socks. For some reason, I can only find one of them, but they're super cute. These are made with Happy Mermaid Yarn Co. yarn, her sock yarn, and it came in, I bought a sock kit that came with this bag, and so this bag traveled with me and I carried all my sock projects in them. I was anticipating doing a lot more over the summer. Since we took that big long road trip, I was anticipating getting a lot more knitting done, but things happen. I also was anticipating filming a lot more, and I got absolutely zero footage from that, so I apologize. If you are interested in seeing some of our photos from the trip, I will happily share those. So just let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, I have a pair of very patriotic 4th of July socks now. Now, for some reason, I haven't blocked this sock, and I actually don't own any sock blockers. I'm thinking about buying some. We'll just see. And for some reason, my socks did not match, even though I counted my rows. The leg on this, you'll notice, is kind of an awkward, so like here's the heel. It's kind of an awkward length. It's not really a true shorty sock. The other one fits perfectly, right at the ankle. This one, I guess I did a few extra rounds on, and I'm not quite sure how that happened. So I am gonna have to revisit these at some point, or at least this one. I'm gonna have to revisit and rip back a few rows, which I'm glad that's the issue, because it's always easier to rip back and knit less than to have to go back and add more. So yeah, cute pair of socks. They are nice and cozy. They kept my feet warm on the trip, and so I'm happy to have these. So one finished object in the books. As far as the other finished object that I had from the summer, that was the Clotilde sweater. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. I'm not 100% though. Clotilde. And that's a Knitting for Olive pattern. And you can find it on Ravelry. You can see my project notes. I don't know if I have too many of them, but you can see my project page on Ravelry. My Ravelry is linked in the description below and also on my channel page. I finished the Clotilde sweater, but it was a gift, so I do not have that with me to show you. I will insert a picture so that you can see what that finished object did look like. It turned out super cute. She loved it. I really think that she's gonna get a lot of use out of it, so I was happy to be able to have that for her birthday, so yay. So the Clotilde sweater, I used 100% mulberry silk. I believe it was VJ Fibers. I'm not sure what the color was, but it's kind of a dusty coral pink, I would say. Kind of a salmon color. I don't think I have any scraps here with me. No, I don't have the scraps here with me, but you'll be able to tell from the photo that I insert. So that was a lovely finished object. It was my first all over lace project, so I was very happy that it was a child size sweater. I also changed the pattern because instead of full-length sleeves, I did short sleeves. I just thought that suited the style I was going for a little bit better. All right, next finished object I have to show you is totally a project that came out of nowhere. I just kind of needed something to keep my hands busy, and the yarn had been sitting in my stash for a while. I had known that I wanted to do something like a simple raglan, some kind of t-shirt that I could wear to work, but I wasn't exactly sure what pattern I wanted to follow. Now, I did find a free pattern for a raglan tee on Ravelry, and I kind of based this on that pattern, but I did not follow that pattern past. I really didn't follow that pattern at all. I cast on the number of stitches recommended in the pattern, didn't really think that it was going to work for me, so I ended up totally just doing my thing and winging it, and the finished result is a little wonky, but bear with me. It has been blocked, but I don't have any proper like blocking mats, and I've also worn it since. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen this, or at least part of it already. So this is the raglan tee that I made. It is large. I was, worried that it would be too small, but this yarn actually did grow quite a bit in blocking. So this is the Lang Yarns Seda Tweed. You can kind of see how the fit is. I don't mind that it's a little bit oversized. Like I said, this is something that I wear to work, and so being a teacher, I don't need to dress up very often. I obviously want to look professional, but this is just enough that, it gives me a cozy enough feeling wearing a hand knit, but it looks polished enough to be able to wear, on a more casual day. So yeah, I'm very, very pleased with how it came out. So with this yarn, let me hold it up a little bit closer for you. You can see the tweed. So the yarn is the same throughout, it's just different colors. And so the reason I put that dark brown stripe in there is really because I was worried that I wasn't going to have enough yarn, not realizing how much this yarn would actually grow, because this tee is significantly bigger than I need it to be. Again, it's comfortable. I'm very happy with it, but if I made another one, I would definitely make some adjustments to my stitch count to accommodate that stretch. But it's a great fabric, I think. When you hold it up to the light, it is a little bit, not see-through, but a little bit gapey, but when you're wearing it on the body, you can't see through it or anything. I wore it to work, just this single layer. And so you can kind of see when the light's behind it, but against skin, you can't see through it at all. So I was very comfortable wearing this to work. So super cute, just a basic, super basic raglan, kind of just wung it as I was making it. So I am proud of myself for that. I feel like I have I fully understand raglan construction now, to the point that I feel comfortable just kind of making something up as I go. And so I'm glad to have this. Number one, I'm glad to have this as a finished object in my wardrobe, But number two, I feel like I really learned something about myself and my abilities that, not having a pattern is not the worst thing that can happen to me. I can certainly be a little bit more inventive. Now, that's not to say that I ever think I'm going to be a pattern designer. I just don't think I have the drive or desire to be a pattern designer. But that being said, I do like knowing that I can, if there is something that I want, I feel a lot more comfortable now trying to do it on my own, or taking elements of a pattern without necessarily following the whole pattern exactly. I'm getting a lot more comfortable with making modifications to patterns to get the fit that I want. I have a much better understanding of the fit that I want in my knitted garments, which has been a huge area of growth for me because sizing has been a challenge, and knowing how things are going to fit on my body in a knitted fabric after, time and wear and stretch, it's just been very, very good for me to learn. So that is a total surprise finished object. Again, Lang Yarns Seda Tweed in 3 different colors. And I believe I knit this on 3.5 millimeter needles, but I'm not 100% sure. It is on my Ravelry page. I did create a project page for this, so that information will all be on Ravelry as well if you are interested in seeing how I did it. I did take notes, not on Ravelry, but I did take notes on how I created this sweater shirt. So I will update Ravelry with all of those details in case you are interested in seeing how I did it. So yeah, surprise finished object. Always fun to do. All right, what do I want to talk about next? Well, I have a whip that has been lingering. And I don't know if I talked about it in my last, I've talked about it before for sure. I have talked about my camisole number 4 in previous podcast episodes, at least one I'm pretty sure. And I was working it up in another Lang Yarns, yarn, and I was making camisole number 4 on 3.5 millimeter needles in Lang Yarns Denim Cotton Recycled. That is a great yarn. I very much enjoyed working with the yarn. I think that it's a great yarn for a summer garment, being that it is cotton. However, I do not think that was a good yarn for that project. So I decided to frog that project altogether and reclaim the yarn for some unknown project to be announced at a later date. However, I still definitely want a camisole number 4. I bought the pattern. I have been working on the pattern. I like the pattern very much, and definitely want the finished object in my wardrobe. So I started thinking about what I could use to create that camisole. And actually, I was watching High Fiber Knits, Emily, her knitting podcast, and she had done a haul review of hobby yarns, and she got a ball of mercerized cotton and was talking about mercerized cotton, and that one of the patterns she was thinking about making out of that mercerized cotton was a camisole number 4. She did talk about how her fabric, when she made her swatch, was a little bit too sheer, a little bit too gapey for her liking, but I really thought that sounded fantastic. I live in a very, very warm place most of the time. As I'm filming this, it is October 2nd, and I have perfectly blue skies outside my window, and it is probably going to get up into the 80s, if not 90s today. So yeah, fall vibes, send them my way. But not a lot of cool weather here, so I often will wear camisoles and things like that year round. All that being said, Knit Picks was having a cotton sale, and so I picked up 3 skeins, 3 balls of mercerized cotton. This is their Curio number 10 mercerized cotton in the color Kenai, which is a beautiful teal color. It's funny because this is actually almost exactly the same color as the cotton, the denim cotton that I was using for my first version of the camisole number 4, but just a beautiful, shiny teal color. And it is very, very thin. It is, hold on. It is a lace weight. Very, very thin. Ooh, very, very thin yarn. But I knitted a gauge swatch. And this is that gauge swatch. So, as you can see, my mouth moving behind my swatch, I also got a very, very thin, very, very gapey, very, very sheer fabric in my swatch. And totally understood what Emily was talking about, but I don't know if you can kind of, when I turn it, maybe you can see the pattern better, but I love the way that the stitches look in this fabric. And I did a test where I took my top off and held this swatch over an area that I would prefer to cover. All right, so I changed the setup a little bit. I brought you in a little closer, and I have a fan pointing at the camera. Hopefully that will keep the camera cool enough that it won't shut off again. So, we're back. So I did a little test where I held the swatch up against my skin in my bathroom in the light, and I realized that if it's up against skin, you really can't see through it all that much. I mean, you could still kind of see like the wall in between my fingers here, but when I close my fingers, you can't really tell like where my fingers end and my hand begins. You can't really see through it because it all just looks dark through the holes. You see what I mean? So that leads me to believe that as an actual camisole, I might be okay wearing this out and about. Obviously I would have undergarments underneath it, so it's not like I would be flashing anybody, but I feel like between those 2 layers, I'm not going to be showing more skin than I would like to be. And I think this would be a really beautiful, breathable summer fabric. So I decided to go ahead with the project, and this is the progress I have made so far. Hold on, I'm a little tangled. Give me a second. Okay, here we go. Alright, so I just had to move this onto smaller needles, smaller circumference needles, because I needed my larger needles for another project, which I'll show you in a second. But this is the progress I have made on camisole number 4, 2.0. So I've done all of the increases, all of the pieces are joined. I'm now just at the part where you work in the round until it is as long as you want it to be. So I'm pretty happy with how it's going. I think the top is super cute. I did make one change. When I started the first front piece, that you start with in the pattern. The pattern calls for garter stitches in the center row. And I just was looking at the fabric and I thought, I don't know if I like those garter stitches. The garter stitches are where you have the most gaping. If you can kind of see, it's hard to tell, but like right here. Not that it's significantly more, but it is a little bit more. And so I just kind of thought that I wanted stockinette stitches down that center piece. And so I made some adjustments to the pattern to accommodate that. Basically, everywhere going along that it called to knit these center stitches, I just knitted or purled. So this is worked in broken rib, which means you're knitting one round and you're knitting and purling the other round. So in that pattern, I would knit all of these stitches on the front side and then just purl them on the back side instead of knitting them on the back side or the wrong side, which is what the pattern calls for. And so to make sure that my ribbing is going to work out the way I wanted, I just did 2 fewer increase rows. So each of my triangles is 4 stitches narrower than they would have been otherwise. And then when I joined all the way around, because you cast on stitches for each of the underarms and at the back to join the 2 back pieces, I just made up for those stitches. So I cast on an additional 16 stitches when I joined all of these pieces in the round. So my body circumference is going to be correct. And then that way I get to, let me see if I can get you to see this. That way I get to have knit stitches be that center. Knit stitches, ooh, where am I going? Slide it, slide it. Okay, there we go. So I get to have these knit stitches in the center versus having garter stitches, and then I just have the garter on either side. It might be kind of difficult to see, but once I get more work on the body, hopefully by the next podcast episode, which will hopefully not be months from now, once I get more stitches on the body, I think it'll be easier to see, but I'm hoping that my little modification will work out the way I want it to. I really just didn't want to interrupt the rib pattern that you get in the body, but I wanted those garter stitches. So I think it works out, just not doing those not doing all of the increases that are called for in the pattern. Oh, by the way, this that I used to do my provisional cast on, that's what the Clotilde sweater is made out of. So I actually do have the leftovers here. Pull them out for you. These are the leftovers from the Clotilde sweater. So you can see it's like that dusty, peachy pink color that is just so pretty. Anyway, just wanted to remember to circle back to that. So yeah, that's my camisole number 4 in its early early days on the camisole number 4 2.0. But I think it's going to turn out well. I am excited for the finished product. I think that it's going to be a great addition to my wardrobe, considering how warm it is here all the time. And I don't think it'll be too see-through, especially if I have like a cute bralette on underneath. I think it'll work out just fine. So, very happy with that. Okay, I have a couple of other works in progress to share with you. And I also have some acquisitions. Some of the acquisitions go with the works in progress, so I think I'm going to combine and talk about them together. What do I want to start with? I want to start with something very exciting. Okay, before I show you what I've done, I am working on a great gingham raglan. I know, I'm so excited. So it is the first colorwork project I have ever attempted. Certainly the first all over colorwork garment I have attempted. So I'm very excited about that. Let me show you the yarn first. So I purchased, okay, as I was doing my research to find yarn for this project, I started with the recommended yarn just to kind of see what I needed to mimic if I was going to go outside of the recommended yarn. So I'm looking at it, and I'm on the Ritual Dyes website, which they created a kit to go with the Great Gingham Raglan. I guess when it first launched, I don't know when that was. I'm a little late to the Great Gingham party, I think. But anyway, they had a kit for the Great Gingham Raglan. And the kit obviously used both of the recommended yarns. It used Ritual Dyes Sprite, which is, actually I think I just gave it away, but Ritual Dyes Sprite, which is a 3-ply sport weight 60/40 merino Corriedale yarn, and it uses Spin Cycle dyed in the wool. And of the kits they had online, they had them in 3 colorways, and Spin Cycle actually created 2 custom colorways of dyed in the wool specifically for Ritual Dyes. So one of the kits on their website used these 2 colors. So this is Ritual Dyes Sprite in the color Quartzite, which is a beautiful tonal, come on, hello, there we go, which is a beautiful tonal purpley pink. It's showing more pink on camera than I think it does in real life, and it did that in the photos on the website as well. When I received this in person, oh, you can kind of see that is a much more accurate when it's this far away from the camera. This is really what it looks like in real life. It's much more purpley mauve is what I would say, compared to like a princess pink or a bubblegum pink. It's much more on the mauve side. So I love the color. I think it's beautiful. Again, it is a little bit different than the colors on the website, but I'm not mad about it at all. It's still a beautiful color. And there is, it being a tonal, there is some variation. You can see there's some lighter spots and some more saturated spots. So it really does work up nicely because it's not all the same, exactly the same everywhere. And then the Spin Cycle that is in the kit is their colorway called Written in the Stars. And I should have brought you some of the other skeins just to see the different colors, but it's really, the color variation in here is very pastel with slightly more saturated colors. So you can see a lot of like there's like some cotton candy mint and pastel pink, but then there's also some, you know, darker gold and orangey yellows. There's also a fair bit of pink in there. There's also in some of the other skeins a lot more blue, like straight up very turquoisey blues. There's a fair bit of lilac mixed in there. So it really is just like a beautiful pastel, pinky, yellowy, almost rainbow, you could say. It really is a beautiful, beautiful colorway. So anyway, this was the kit that they had put together online, and the kits were sold out. But I really liked the way this looked, and I thought that it would look really, really nice for the Great Gingham. I really don't have anything in my wardrobe that's pink, and so I thought, number one, what a way to be introduced to Spin Cycle and the magic of it, and I totally get now why people are obsessed with Spin Cycle. Do I think it is worth the price? 100%. Will I use it all the time? Only when I can afford to. Because it is definitely, this sweater was probably the biggest knitting splurge I have ever allowed myself. It is going to be an expensive sweater, but I do just think the colors are beautiful. It is all over color work. Color is the most important thing, and so I decided to treat myself and go with the combination in the kit offered by the dyer who is used in the original pattern. You know, so I thought it was just a no-brainer, especially when I ordered these yarns. I wrote a note that said, you know, hey, I'm trying to recreate your sold out kit. Please, you know, pick colors that are going to complement each other. And I do think that they did a good job, at least from what you can see in the skein. So as soon as the yarn arrived, I did my swatch. I did my swatch in the round, which may or may not have been a mistake. Again, first color work ever, so this swatch is literally the first time I've ever done color work. You can see how cute the pattern is. Super cute, the color changing yarn. So here you can see, like, this is more pastel mint green and that gold, and then this is a little bit deeper. There's more purple in it. Really, really pretty. You can also see the variation in the quartzite color too. Like there's a lighter spot. These are some deeper strands. Anyway, did my swatch. I did it magic loop, and floats are a new fun experience for me. So when I did my swatch, my edges that I'm used to pulling snug when I work magic loop, yeah, those got pulled a little too snug. A little too snug there. You can see I have a little bubble where my floats did not give me enough room for it to stretch out. But on the flat pieces, it's pretty good. You know, on the where the two needles are. I haven't noticed this problem when I've been working in the round. But anyway, here is my swatch. I got gauge on my swatch, or pretty close to it. I think I might be one stitch off, but close enough that I felt comfortable moving forward. This is knit, these are two sport weight yarns, and it is knit on 4mm needles. Let me double check. Yes, US size 6, 4mm needles is what this is worked on. So I got gauge, or close enough to gauge that I was comfortable moving forward. I do like the fabric a lot. The yarn is toothier than some of the yarns I have worked with. I mean, not that it's not soft, it is very soft. But it is, you know, being full on wool, a little bit toothier than what I have worked with in the past. But I love it. I love the way it feels. It's a nice, like, very sturdy but still stretchy, bouncy fabric. It's gonna be nice and thick, where I think it's gonna have a good structure. And I am gonna be doing the short sleeve version of the raglan, just because, number one, sleeves are long, and number two, I live in Miami. I don't need long sleeve anything. So I am gonna make the T version. So this is basically what my sleeve will look like. Raglan, so that. But anyway, I think it's just gonna be super cute. So let me show you the progress that I have made so far. Untangle it. Now to do this project, I am a continental knitter. I am a continental knitter, which means that I hold my yarn in my left hand as I'm knitting. So when I knit, you know, I knit like this. And so color work initially was a little bit challenging for me because of how I hold my yarn. And I started as a crocheter first. So, you know, I kind of had the way that I hold my yarn that I was very, very comfortable with. And so it was hard to get used to knitting while holding my yarn that way. That's why continental knitting has worked better for me than anything else. But anyway, all that to be said, all that just to say that I am using a color work thimble. So I use the one that looks like this. So I sit it on my finger, just like that, and I run the 2 strands of yarn, one through each of the circles, and that allows me to knit continental with both of my strands at the same time. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this, but it has really been a lifesaver because it allows me to knit comfortably even though I'm doing something I've never done before. So let me show you where I've gotten to. So it is a bottom-up raglan construction, which I have never knit a bottom-up sweater before. So I'm excited about that. The bottom ribbing will not stop flipping up. It is a problem. So I'm going to try to hold it down for you. But I just love the way the colors are working so far. So you can see I've got some blue in there. I've got the yellow that was in my swatch. God, I wish I could get that flat for you. That is so annoying. Okay, are you gonna stay like that? Will you stay? Will you stay? There we go. That's a little bit better. So you can see the whole repeat there. Now there are some pinks and peaches that I was worried were not going to have enough contrast. And actually seeing it on camera, there is a lot more contrast on camera than it looks like in person. So I am hopeful, sorry, I'm trying to see what I'm showing you. I'm hopeful that after blocking especially, that it'll have a good amount of contrast. And I'm loving, absolutely loving this fabric so far. I think the gingham pattern is so cute. And I cannot wait for this to be finished. I am just loving it. I think it's gonna be so adorable when it's finished. So yeah, that is my great gingham in all of her glory. If anybody's interested in my floats, I have been trying to be good and catch all of my floats. Not happening. Not happening at all. I have been good at catching most of them, but since the learning curve for color work has been kind of steep for me, I'm not going to punish myself for not catching all of my floats. So this is what my floats look like. Pretty. I actually think they're not that bad. I am getting a little bit of puckering. I don't know if you can see. I mean, obviously you can see because the fabric is kind of wonky, but if I hold it this way, you can see how I'm getting a lot of puckering, but when I tug at the fabric, it does relax. So I'm pretty sure, like when I stretch out like an individual square, the puckering does get better, like when I kind of play with it like that. So I feel good that, you know, in the blocking process, I'm going to be able to, whoa, dropping stitches, that in the blocking process, I'm going to be able to fix some of that, and hopefully get it to lay down nicely. And you know what? I did spend a lot of money on the yarn for this sweater, and you know, that is a decision that I made. I'm not going to let perfect be the enemy of good. I'm not going to, you know, let myself worry too much about this not turning out perfect. If I have a little bit of puckering, you know, I mean, it happens. It's my first color work project. I'm not going to, you know, be mad at myself for it not coming out perfect, especially for being my first project ever with this kind of knitting. I'm just going to be proud of myself for finishing a garment of this kind. I'm going to be proud of myself for trying something new, for getting a little bit outside of my comfort zone when it comes to color, because pink is not something that I gravitate towards. I'm not even sure pink looks that good on me, but you know, I'm gonna just be happy with the object no matter what. Even if it has a little bit of puckering, even if my floats are not perfect, I'm going to love it just the same. So if you don't like my puckering, well, you don't have to wear it. So yeah, I'm so pleased with it. I could look at it for hours. I probably have been talking about it for longer than I need to, but it's just so pretty. I mean, look at that. Look at the color. I totally get why Spin Cycle has the reputation that it does. Like for me, the hype is real. You know, I know a lot of people kind of are like, oh, well, you know, it's just yarn, but they might think that, you know, it's a little bit expensive for what it is, and it is definitely an investment, but color is just so much of why I love knitting is color. So I was happy to treat myself to this yarn to be able to make this project. So yeah, that is my great gingham raglan. Super cute. I'm super excited about it. Again, that is knit on Ritual Dyes Sprite in the color Quartzite, and Spin Cycle dyed in the wool in the color, what is the color? In the color Written in the Stars. So you can see there, it is a Ritual Dyes exclusive, meaning you have to buy it from Ritual Dyes. They do not have it on the Spin Cycle website. I'm going to slip in one more work in progress. Probably should have talked about this before because it is like this close to being a finished object. I was actually going to finish it last night, but I was just too tired. But this pair of socks. So I have made a pair of kind of mismatchy socks. So the toe colors and the heel and ribbing colors are inverted. I think that's pretty cute. I kind of like the way it looks. But yeah, I just have one more round of ribbing and then the bind off, which I did, I'll show you on this sock. I did a tubular bind off on this sock, so you can see how it looks like the knitting just runs right over the edge. I love a tubular bind off. It is my favorite bind off at this moment so far in my knitting journey. But anyway, I just have one more round of ribbing and then the bind off on this sock, and then I will have two completed shorty socks. So you can see compared to this sock, you can see how long the leg is here, even though it's supposed to be a shorty sock. I corrected that on this one. So pretty much immediately after the heel, I did the top ribbing, and it sits perfect. It sits exactly where I want a shorty sock to sit. So I'm very, very pleased with that. I think these are such a cute pair of socks. The yarn is Fuzzy Peach Fibers. It was a sock set that she had in her shop. It was, the set was the Honeydew sock set. So Honeydew is this main color, this corally, peachy, yellow, variegated color with these blue speckles. So that is the Honeydew color. And then the two minis were Seedling and, oh goodness, Seedling, which I'm pretty sure is the green one, and Wink, I'm pretty sure is the blue color. So Honeydew, Seedling, and Wink. I don't think this colorway is available anymore. When I first started buying from Fuzzy Peach Fibers, she only had an Etsy shop. Inga, who's the dyer, only had an Etsy shop. She now has her own full-blown website, which, because of the Etsy service charges, I do believe the yarn directly on her website is slightly less expensive, because she doesn't have to pay the fees on her own website. And I believe right now she is only dyeing to order. And I believe you have to order a sweater's quantity, so 3 skeins or more. Last time I checked, that's what was going on. So if you like this colorway, I'm sorry, I don't know if it's ever coming back, but I can tell you that I have made several socks out of Fuzzy Peach Fibers soft sock yarn, and it's definitely my favorite sock yarn for socks. Now, I can't speak to the durability of them because I don't wear hand knit socks all that often. I actually don't know if I've ever worn hand knit socks not around the house. So my socks don't see a ton of wear and tear, so I can't speak as far as, if you're gonna get holes or as far as felting goes, because my hand knit socks are mostly around the house socks. But that being said, they are so soft, they are nice and stretchy. The yarn is a 4-ply, super bouncy merino, superwash merino nylon blend. I love Fuzzy Peach Fibers. The only other base I have tried is the fingering weight that she no longer dyes on. So I believe the only fingering weight she carries are the soft sock, which is a nylon merino blend, and I believe there's another, I think it's a single ply merino fingering base that she also dyes on. But definitely go check out her website. I love all the colorways that she has. I actually am expecting in November the winter advent calendar box. I don't know if it's a calendar, but you open them one every day. You get the idea. So I'm looking forward to that, and I will of course tell you all about it, tell you how I feel about it, show you all the colors. But yeah, definitely go and check out Fuzzy Peach Fibers. I love her yarn, just absolutely love her yarn. Here is what it looks like caked up. If you want to see the cake, that is the Honeydew colorway. And then I also have in here Winkle, which is that contrast color. So I should finish those today. It will take me less than an hour to finish them, so technically I think that should count as a finished object. Okay. So the next whip I want to talk about, I need to give a little bit of backstory because it kind of goes into knitting plans. It's all kind of connected and you'll see how. So my next whip is a champagne cardigan, and I am so excited about my champagne cardigan. This is a project I have been wanting to make for a while. I've talked about on my channel before that I really want to try to work through as much of my stash as possible before I start buying too much yarn. Obviously that's not going well from all the yarn that you've seen today and the yarn that you have yet to see. I'm reevaluating that, and I'll get back into that later. Anyway, that's part of why I was putting off the champagne cardigan, because I just didn't think I had a yarn that was suitable, and I didn't really want to buy more yarn. Well, one day I was standing in my closet trying to get dressed for work, and there were some outfits that I wanted to wear, but being a teacher, I like to dress a little bit more conservatively at work. You're dealing with teenagers. It's better to err on the side of more coverage than less. And so there were a couple of outfits that I was like, oh, that would be cute. That would be cute. But I wish I had a cardigan. But I wish I had a cardigan to go with it. I wish I had a cardigan to wear with that. And so I found myself saying that so much that I was just like, why don't you just knit a cardigan if that's what you need, So champagne cardigan enters the chat. I already knew I didn't have anything in stash to make the champagne cardigan, so I knew I was going to shop for yarn. I started watching every YouTube video I could find of people who had made the champagne cardigan. I started looking at Ravelry project pages for the champagne cardigan, and again, Emily at High Fiber Knits did a great video breaking down her champagne cardigan, the yarn that she chose, how it went for her, all the details. Highly recommend checking that out. I will put a link in the description box down below. So she convinced me to look at Knit Picks. Now, I already have Knit Picks yarn in my camisole number 4 that I just showed you. Little note that I forgot to talk about back then, they also make a curio number 3 versus the curio number 10. I think the curio number 3 is like just a little bit thicker, so I might look into that next time I want to do a mercerized cotton project, because I do love the shine of the mercerized cotton. But the cotton that I have, I think, is technically like a crochet thread, so curio number 3 might be a little bit better for the knit projects I have in mind. Anyway, I digress. All of that to say, I picked up some Knit Picks yarn to knit the champagne cardigan. This Simply Wool worsted weight yarn, but I picked mine up in the color Winnie. So this is a really nice like oatmeal brown beige color. And I believe that these are undyed, so all of them are very, very similar in that color family. Some of them are a little bit more, beigey like this. Some of them are a little bit more gray. But if you look, and it might be easier to see in my swatch, but if you look closely, you can see how the yarn is very heathered because of the different fibers, the different hairs that are spun together. So it really is a very nice, rustic but soft yarn. I'm very, very pleased with this choice. But I was thinking, in her video she addressed that this is a worsted weight yarn and the pattern calls for DK held together with a strand of mohair. And so she talked about her, gauge issues, that she might have gotten a bigger gauge because of that, but it didn't seem to affect the fit, the feel of her finished object. Now, in looking for a second strand, I didn't want to commit to mohair. I don't have anything against mohair. I really do like mohair. I made the Oslo hat mohair edition, love that, definitely want to make another one. But for a cardigan that, if I wore it with a sleeveless garment, I'd have a lot of contact with my skin and my arms, rubbing against my neck, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to go with mohair, especially a mohair I'm not familiar with, for that. So I decided to go with an alternative that I knew would be very soft. And so I chose this alpaca cloud lace in the color Jane. And I love this because it's a beautiful camel-y brown color. And I just love that color brown. It is so pretty. My thinking was also that if I pair these two together, it might bring out more of the brown in the wool. So I decided to try it. I ordered it, they arrived, I started knitting my swatch, and this just wasn't giving me what mohair usually gives to a fabric. So if you've never knit with mohair before, usually if I knit a wool like this with a mohair, the color of the mohair will have some kind of an effect on the yarn. If I'm using something lighter than this, it's going to lighten the overall effect, the overall color of the yarn. If I'm using a deeper mohair, it will deepen up the color of the yarn a little bit. It really can just kind of, that halo just creates like a sheen, a wash of color over the color of your base yarn. And this, because it doesn't have the halo, wasn't doing that for me. So it really just ended up working up more like a marled yarn, and so, or a marled fabric. So in marling, you use two different colors of yarn, usually, and the one kind of will peek through the other one. So as you're knitting, you know, the order that the yarn is going to be in as you make those stitches, one yarn is not always going to be, you know, they're not going to always lay in exactly the same position over each other. So you'll get peaks or flashes, almost kind of like speckles, but stronger throughout the fabric. And that's what was happening to me with this. So it wasn't really giving me the effect I wanted, but I found a way to reuse this yarn anyway. Not reuse, but I found a way to use this yarn anyway, and that's because I already had this Isager alpaca merino, which I don't know if you can tell, but these yarns are so similar. They are the same weight, they have a very similar twist, and even though this one, the Knit Picks, is 100% baby alpaca and the Isager is 50% alpaca, 50% merino, their fiber content is similar enough that I feel like they would really work well together. And I feel like the marling between these two shades of brown would be really pretty. In addition, I had already tried to make a garment. I swatched to make a garment out of this, and because it is such a fine yarn, because the weight is so light, I knit the swatch on 2.75 millimeter needles, and that would be a nightmare to knit an entire garment out of that. So I was already thinking about holding this double, but of course that halves the amount of yarn that I have to knit the garment. So being able to mix it with this, not only will I think add some beautiful dimension to the brown Isager, but I also think it'll give me a very, very luxurious but lightweight fiber, but lightweight fabric in the finished product. So this is going to be for a future knit garment, and that leaves me with this to do my champagne cardigan. So I was thinking, well, do I need to buy a second strand to go to create, you know, the fabric intended by the pattern by Petite Knit? And then I realized this is a worsted weight yarn, and the DK and the mohair together are supposed to create more of a worsted weight fabric. So knitting this by itself will actually get me a closer gauge than if I added a second strand with this anyway. So I knit up my swatch with just the Simply Wool worsted held single, and I love this fabric. Look at the heathering. you can see how like the different hairs create all this dimension in the stitches. I just love it. Just love it. And I thought this would be a beautiful cardigan, totally neutral, fit into my wardrobe. So I went for it. And I have been neglecting every other project in favor of this one. Oh, by the way, this is a new project bag also. This is from Kitsch is the New Black on Etsy. Super cute. I love the size of it. Look at the fabric. Look, there's like little animals in the hot air balloons. I just think that is so adorable. I needed a larger project bag because I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but all my project bags, all my project bags are pretty much the same size. And so I really needed something larger because I knew, number one, my gingham sweater is going to get enormous. And number two, this cardigan is going to get fairly large also. So I bought this bag just to use with my larger projects in the future. And so here is my champagne cardigan. It is on my, so I have a Chiaogu interchangeable needle set, but I don't have any extra cables. I need to buy more cables. My Great Gingham Raglan is on my 40-inch cable, so this one is on my 32-inch cable, so you can't see it exactly because the bottom is all squished up. But here is my cardigan so far. I am very, very pleased with it. I think it looks so cute so far. You can see my little progress keeper. I love the way the fabric is working up. I'm really, really pleased with it. I have tried it on, and I think it fits perfectly. I think it's going to be perfect. Based on my gauge swatch, let me back up because I left some stuff out. When I did my gauge swatch, I measured it pre-blocking, and I was off by about, I want to say 2 to 3 stitches, maybe even 4 stitches. I think the pattern calls for 18 stitches and 20-some rows, 24 rows. And I think I was like 22 stitches and 28 rows. But then I blocked the swatch and my gauge is a lot closer. So I think right now I'm at 19 stitches, which is only one larger, and my row gauge is off, but that doesn't matter as much because when it comes to knitting the length, I'm just gonna knit until it's the right length for me. And so I'm not as worried about row gauge. Where row gauge is very, very important in this pattern, which I know from all the research that I did before starting it, is that your row gauge needs to match the row gauge of the button band. And so the button band is done afterwards, so you pick up stitches all along the front of the cardigan. And the button band is double knit, which means you're making a fabric that's double thick because you're basically knitting 2 sides of a fabric to do the button band. So I did a swatch of the button band. I didn't block it, but I did a swatch of the button band, and my button band row gauge matched my swatch row gauge. So I think everything's gonna work out fine because my length I'll just measure against my body, and that way the button band won't be too short or too long compared to the stitches in my cardigan. Does that make sense? Because if your button band, if the gauge is too long, it's gonna look weird. You're not going to be able to pick enough stitches to like line up. But if it's too short, then it's going to cinch up and your cardigan's not going to sit right in the front, if that makes sense. I probably didn't explain that very well, but hopefully you get what I'm talking about. So as long as my row gauge matches the row gauge of my button band, I should be fine, even though my row gauge doesn't match the row gauge of the pattern, is what I'm trying to say. But I will keep you updated. As you can see, I have made a lot of progress. I am knitting this on the recommended 4.5 millimeter or US size 7 needles. And I just love how it is coming out. I think this is going to be such a staple in my closet. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say that I totally forgot. After doing my gauge swatch and thinking about what size I wanted to knit, the champagne cardigan has a lot of positive ease built into the pattern. I believe it's 11 inches of positive ease. So positive ease, if you're new, or if you're a beginner knitter, positive ease is basically the space around your body, between your body and the garment. So if I'm like taking this top for example, so here's the sides of my body. This top has, you know, several inches, probably 4 inches on either side, that the fabric is larger than my body. Does that make sense? So if I were to, you know, here's the edge of my body, and here is where the fabric goes to. So that would be my positive ease. I don't think I want 11 inches of positive ease. In fact, I know that I don't want 11 inches of positive ease. I'm, you know, a larger girl, and I felt like 11 inches of positive ease would just swallow me up and leave me with no shape. I still wanted the oversized look and feel without swimming in my cardigan. So I decided to go for the size that would give me, I based on my gauge, I figured out, you know, how much ease 3 different sizes would give me. And I went for the size that would give me 6 inches of positive ease, knowing that I'm probably going to end up with slightly more than that because my stitch gauge is 1 stitch larger. So my overall stitch count, for the same number of stitches, I'm going to end up with a slightly larger garment anyway. So I'm estimating that I'll have between 6 and 8 inches of positive ease compared to 11. And that is just perfect for me. That still gives me enough room that it feels oversized and cozy, but also with enough room that I don't think it'll look like I'm swimming in sweater. And I think, based on trying it on, I think that's going to end up being just perfect. Because, like I said before, it'll give me oversized fit without being too big. So I'm very, very pleased with it. I have on here my little stitch marker from Fuzzy Peach Fibers when she was still making stitch markers. And then these are new to me also, these needle stoppers. Look how cute that is. Look how cute. It is so cute. These are from Izzy Mateo on Etsy. And it came with a set of 3 needle stoppers. So you get 2 that are these little balls and then 1 that's the daisy. I'm thinking about buying an entire separate set of these so that I will have 2 matching daisy ones, because, I mean, just look. Is that not the cutest thing you've ever seen? It's just perfect. So I need to wind some more yarn so I can keep working on this cardigan. So I'm so excited about it. I cannot wait to have it in my closet. I already know that I'm going to be making several more, just based on how quickly I've been able to work this up. I think I started this cardigan maybe 2 weeks ago at this point. and because I've been sick, I haven't been working on it a ton, but it's been going very, very quickly. So I'm excited about that. I also forgot to mention when I bought the bag, she also included this little notions case, which I think is so cute. It's like little circus tents. How cute. And Izzy Mateo, when I ordered the needle stoppers, sent me this little stitch marker as a bonus. Super cute. I don't know if you can see, it's just like a loop, but it's these really pretty natural stones. So cute. And I have one more acquisition to show you, and that's this Halloween project bag. Look how cute that is. I just love it. I love all the little black cats, like my little Bogey. I love that it's a Halloween print, but it's not like in your face Halloween. You know what I mean? Like it's not all like purple and orange, but you know, it's got the pumpkins, it's got the bats, the black cats, you know, it's got the spooky and the skeletons, and I just think it is the most adorable thing, and I love this shade of blue and teal. The bottom is a waxed canvas, so it does, you know, stand up on its own. I always look for that in bags. I really only like project bags that have, you know, a boxed bottom so that they will sit flat. And both of these new bags that I have, this one also, are drawstring drawstring bags, which is new for me too. I normally go for a zipper, which I've never had a problem with a zipper on my project bag, like catching my yarn or anything like that, but I do think a drawstring is a good idea because you just cinch it up tight and nothing will fall out. So I do like that, especially having like a little notions case that has a zipper, so like your stitch markers don't fall out or anything like that. But I also wanted to show you that when I ordered this bag, this is from Puff Stitch 1. Let me just double check. Yeah, Puff Stitch 1 on Etsy. And such a super cute store. Tons of project bags. Right now, I think she just restocked with a couple of other Halloween bags. I think this pattern or this color is out of stock, but this pattern she has in some other colors, maybe still, I'm not sure. And she also has some other Halloween bags on there that are super cute. But she also sent over a little surprise gift. And so she sent this little, let me turn him around so you can see him. Look how cute that little ghost is. Aww. Isn't he so cute? He's so happy. Just spooking around. I thought that was the cutest thing ever. So, I've got my bag empty and ready for a, I don't know, a Halloween project, or since October is officially here, I don't know, I'm gonna have to think about what I'm doing. I do have one idea for this project bag, but I'm not sure. Well, I'll just tell you now. So, as I'm recording this video, the West Knits shawl MCal is going to start very, very soon. This Thursday, I believe, October 6th. It is upon us, and I hadn't really thought about it. I saw the announcement. I've of course heard of Stephen West. I've of course heard of the shawl MCal. I've of course heard of, you know, all of his shawl patterns and the crazy designs and the colors. But I, again, live in Miami. I don't really need a shawl. So I've kind of shied away from shawl patterns just because I wouldn't say I'm a product knitter, but I choose something because I think it's gonna add to my closet. I try to be very intentional in that way and knit things either because they're going to enhance my skills. So I have knit like some gloves and things like that just for the fun of trying it out, learning some new techniques. But for the most part, I try to knit things that are going to fit in my closet some way and that I will get practical use out of. That being said, I kind of want to do the MCAL. I know it's like a super last minute decision, and I don't even know if I have any yarn to do it, so actually yarn is going to be the deciding factor. I think I'm a little late to order some kits. There is a kit on Etsy that I have my eye on. It's sitting in my cart waiting for me to pull the trigger, but I don't know. You saw the yarn I just bought. I can't be buying more yarn. So, I don't know. I might do a little stash dive and see if I can pull some stash together. Or I might just pull the trigger. I don't know. But I like the idea of the MCAL. I like the idea of, just seeing where the journey takes you and not necessarily knowing what the finished product is going to look like, but enjoying the process of it, because that's something that I'm trying to get better at, enjoying the process of the knitting for the knitting's sake and not just, oh, I can't wait to wear this kind of product knitting. So I definitely like that aspect of it. I also like the aspect that, this is probably one of the most popular MCALs I've ever heard of, and so to be part of such a large community of knitters, I think would be really awesome. And I don't know, it would also be my first knit along ever, actually. So yeah, I'm very, very tempted. I have the pattern in my Ravelry cart. I have some yarn in an Etsy cart. I'm gonna try to do some stash shopping. I'm gonna ask my other I've talked about her before, but the teacher that I work with, who is also a knitter, she's the one that brought all of the yarn from her local yarn store that they donated. There is some of that still at school, some of the yarn that was donated from the store. So I might go shopping in that stash and see if I can come up with anything for the MCAL, but I know she's gonna do the MCAL for sure. And so that would kind of be fun too, because, I don't really have any knitting friends that are close to me. So, it would also be fun to kind of be able to do that with her together and have somebody in real life to connect with. And that's why I started this YouTube channel, is to connect with all of you and be able to share our knitting and get ideas from each other. And so, I don't know, every time I think about it, I talk myself into it more. So I think I'm gonna do it. I do want to try to find some yarn that, doesn't have to be new to me yarn. I mean, doesn't have to be new yarn in my stash. If I can shop my stash or shop the donation stash, that would be ideal. But I do have it sitting in my Etsy cart, so that might happen too. We'll see. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm most likely going to join the MCAL, so that'll be fun. That's something I can put in my new Halloween project bag. So I think that pretty much covers today's podcast. I've been talking for probably over an hour at this point. Hopefully you're still around. If you are a trooper. I cannot believe you have sat here listening to me for so long, but hopefully today's episode was interesting to you. Hopefully you got to see some projects that maybe you're thinking about knitting. If you are knitting any of the patterns that I mentioned, please share down below in the comments. I would love to see your version of them. So I just have one more life update. Some of you may have already peeped this while I was showing you all the chaos going on, but I am actually engaged. Kyle put a ring on it. He would hate that I just said that, but Kyle proposed in July when we were on our summer trip. So this is his grandmother's great-grandmother's engagement ring, actually, so that is extra special. And yeah, we are planning a June wedding, so lots of craziness and wedding planning going on. Let me know if you're interested in hearing any of that. I am doing pretty much everything myself. I don't have a wedding planner or anything like that, so if you have any tips, any ideas, any, things that really helped you stay sane while you were planning your wedding, or if you're planning a wedding right now, please, please, please let me know. I would love to talk about it. If you guys, are interested in hearing more about my wedding plans or, anything like that, please also let me know. I'm happy to include that or, make some videos dedicated to that. I have been thinking a little bit about how to shake up the channel a little bit. Not that I don't love the podcast. I love the podcast. That will always be here, but I like other things and I want to share. I want to share and grow this community. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, like button down below. And if you want to stick around and follow my knitting journey, please hit the subscribe button. If you hit that bell icon, it will notify you each time I post, which, considering my track record, has not been very regular, but I'm gonna do better. But I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.